In the modest town of Pine Ridge, Sarah Henderson lived a life that had become unrecognizable to her. Once a cheerful homemaker with a warm laugh and a talent for baking, she now struggled to make ends meet after the sudden loss of her husband, Mark. A tragic car accident had taken him from her just 3 months ago, leaving Sarah not only heartbroken but also drowning in medical bills from his final days in the hospital. Her mornings were spent juggling two part-time jobs, while her evenings were consumed by calls to creditors and desperate attempts to stretch her meager savings. Mark had always been the rock of their small family, and without him, Sarah felt as though the ground beneath her feet had crumbled away. One chilly November afternoon, Sarah stood in line at the local diner, clutching a coupon for a free cup of coffee. It was one of the few small pleasures she could afford these days. Behind her, a group of men in suits entered, their confident voices and brisk energy starkly out of place in the cozy, weathered diner. She didn't pay them much mind until one of them spoke. "Can't beat a classic diner like this," said a voice that carried a distinctive cadence. It was unmistakable. Sarah turned slightly and caught sight of none other than Donald Trump, surrounded by aides and security. He was in town for a rally and had apparently decided to stop for a bite to eat. Sarah's stomach sank. She wasn't political, and she wasn't sure what to think of the man standing a few feet away. All she knew was that his presence made the air in the room feel heavier. She stepped to the side, hoping to go unnoticed. But fate had other plans. Sarah accidentally bumped into one of Trump's aides as she tried to leave. The collision sent her coupon fluttering to the floor. Embarrassed, she bent to pick it up, murmuring an apology. "You okay, ma'am?" Trump's voice cut through the chatter. She looked up, startled, to see him watching her with genuine concern. "I'm fine," she said quickly, clutching the coupon tighter. But something in her face must have given her away because Trump didn't move on. "You look like you've got a lot on your mind," he said, his tone softer than she expected. For a moment, Sarah hesitated. What could she possibly say? But then, as if the weight of her struggles had finally found a crack in her composure, the words tumbled out. She told him about Mark, about the bills, about the nights she spent awake wondering how she'd ever dig herself out of this hole. By the time she finished, her cheeks were flushed with embarrassment, but Trump listened intently, nodding. When she apologized for oversharing, he simply waved it off. "You don't need to apologize," he said firmly. "You've been through a lot." The conversation lasted only a few minutes before Trump was ushered to a table by his aides. Sarah left the diner feeling foolish for spilling her story to a stranger, especially one as famous as him. She didn't expect to hear anything more about it, but 2 weeks later, a letter arrived at her door. The envelope bore a gold crest and the words, "Office of Donald J. Trump." Inside was a handwritten note. "Dear Sarah, your story moved me more than I can say. I've taken care of your medical bills so you can focus on healing and rebuilding. You've been through enough. Take care of yourself and know that brighter days are ahead." Donald J. Trump attached was a receipt showing that her debts had been paid in full. At first, Sarah couldn't believe it. She stared at the letter for hours, rereading the words and marveling at the unexpected turn of events. The weight that had been crushing her chest for months began to lift, and for the first time in what felt like forever, she allowed herself to hope. The story quickly spread through Pine Ridge, sparking debate and admiration in equal measure. For Sarah, the opinions of others didn't matter. All she knew was that a stranger, someone she'd never imagined would care about her struggles, had shown her an incredible act of kindness. With the bills no longer looming over her, Sarah began to rebuild. She started a small baking business using her skills to bring joy to others, and every time she thought about the dark days behind her, she remembered the moment when a simple conversation in a diner changed her life forever.